So my YouTube friends, here we are on another video, a bit of an explanation tutorial if you want to call it that. Basically we're going to talk about these things, a siphon, and a siphon is exactly what it says on the tin basically. And back in the day you would find these in every single toilet in the world probably at one point, because it was an absolute fantastic invention for being able to contain water in a cistern or a tank so that you could flush your waste down the toilet. So as most of you know, this is the pan and there is the cistern. So this is a new toilet, so this doesn't have one of these in. However, you still find quite a few of them in toilets. I know they still make them for toilets, so occasionally you'd still get one in a toilet. This is one that I replaced a few days ago actually, out of a toilet. It wasn't flushing. So basically how a siphon works, it will sit in your cistern like that. I mean, obviously this is too big, but I'm just giving you an example. You will have a handle on the side somewhere. This has got a button on it, and you will basically just pull this up like that. And as you'll probably realise, you have to pull it up sometimes with some force, and what that will do is it will take the water that's inside the reservoir bit here. As you can see, there's a little hole there as well, so that's so it will fill up with water. And once it has filled up with water, when you pull that up, it creates it draws the water up into the pipe here, so there's enough water in there to get it just over the top there. And as you pull it up, it then creates the vacuum which draws the water through, so then that starts siphoning the water out of the cistern into your pan here, so that will flush your waste away. Quite often these fail. They have a plastic piece, what's called the diaphragm inside there, so we just take this apart. So this is how you would repair that if you wanted it. This metal hook here comes off there, it just hooks in there. It's quite simple really. The washers will come off. It's quite a simple little repair, but generally speaking, if I go into someone's house, I will replace this. I don't bother trying to repair it. And there you go, there's what you call the little plunger inside. Has a spring on it so that it will spring back down, and there you see the piece of plastic that is on the frame here. And this is the broken bit here, so this would have gone like that onto the frame there, and obviously that draws all the water up. Now you can buy the plastic diaphragm and you just trim it to size, to whatever size it needs to be. You can actually just use a rubble sack if you've got one or something like that, and that will repair that. But I find these siphons, they're alright. I mean, they did the job back in the day, but they've since been replaced with a flush valve, which I've got one in a box here. So this is one I carry on the van to replace things with. So there you go. And this is the Flowmaster one. You pick these up from Screwfix, and immediately you just see it looks a little bit like R2-D2. This comes as a kit, by the way, and generally speaking these do come apart. You have a button like I mentioned earlier. What that does is it releases the seal at the bottom. You might be able to see this in a minute. It just pulls that up, and all the water that's in the cistern will then drain away through the hole there. And then the water that's in the cistern, obviously the gravity and the weight of that water then pushes down on the seal, and it seals it and stops it going into your pan here. So I'm going to show you that in a minute on the cistern. Generally speaking, these do come apart, and the seals are replaceable inside, and you can adjust how much water goes through and how not how often it flushes, but how much water goes through. So this does come apart, just held on with clips like that, so you can see the inside. So that will sit in your cistern. this pipe here is the overflow, so any water that overflows from your system. So if your ball cock, which is something like that, that's what's what the ball. So this is a inlet valve. That's that type of one. That's just an example. And then you've got the ball cock or ball valve, which is a float valve. It just does that. So sometimes them need adjustment, and if they're not adjusted correctly, all the water will flow out there. On older toilets, this would have gone outside to the outside, and that would just basically pour out onto your garden path or road, whatever from the outside. So what that does is it just sends the water down into your pan here. So if you get water trickling through your pan there, chances are it's your ball float there, and that's how that works. But like I said, these do come apart, and as you can see, that is the seal there. So this is a replaceable washer. You could just take these out and replace the washer if needed. It's a nice silicone type washer, that, so it will last a lot longer than a traditional rubber one. So just so you know that rubber, so this is like the rubber donut that goes between the cistern and the pan. These are like a foamy thing now as well, so these last a little bit longer, but we always put a bit of silicone on as well, and the silicone basically just soaks into the rubber a little bit and preserves it a bit longer than just putting the rubber on, because like plumbers tend to argue whether you should put silicone on or not, and we tend to do put silicone on because it just seals it better. You can see the rubber seal there. That will, if you don't put the silicone, it will just perish after a while, and you'll end up replacing that. So the silicone just help prevent that. However, if you do take these out, it's always best to replace the seals because they compress, and they just squash like that, and they get thinner and thinner, and that's why things start leaking, because they no longer are preventing a seal between things. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a toilet working with this kind of valve in it, and then we'll do another video which will be very similar to this. I will talk more about the ball cocks and things like that. So I'm just going to take the lid off this toilet and take the camera over here for you so you can see what's going on. There's the button, like I said, and all it does is it pushes down onto the thing here. Now this one is a cable one, so that's slightly different. So that is so you can put the button on the hole there if you need to. Now you can buy ones with handles and flush systems now that will operate the same flush valve there, but we're going to grab the camera now and I'm going to show you inside the toilet on this one. So guys, this is the toilet, and like I said, this is the flush valve here, and as you can see there are two types of button on this one, and you basically press one for a short flush and the other one for a long flush. So like I said earlier, it does depend on what you want to do. So if you press that one, it will just empty the water out there, and you can see it starts filling up. So this again is the inlet valve, and you'll see that shut the water off shortly. And like I said, if these need any adjustment, most of them have a little screw on them there, so you can adjust the flow. And what that will do is stop the water coming over the overflow here. So if the overflow is overflowing, like I said, you will see the water in the pan coming through. So I'm just going to trickle a bit of water through. That's a lot of water, to be honest, but usually that's what you will be seeing if your float valve isn't working correctly. I apologise for all the mess in the toilet, it does need cleaning. So there you go. This is how the toilet works. So I hope you got something out of this video today, and if you do have any questions about toilets and plumbing, just please leave them in the comments below, and we'll see what we can answer your questions and if we can answer them correctly. But I've been doing this a long time, so I know what works and what doesn't work. So generally speaking, if I go to a toilet, obviously if I can replace that washer there, you could pretty much pick them up from anywhere, like Screwfix and that, but it's all the time you have running around to do that. So sometimes it's better to replace that, and then at least you can service the donut there, because chances are you just keep coming back to the same toilet if you disturb something. But the reason why that can be taken off is so you can get to that washer. So there you go, guys. So like I said, if you have got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and share this video. And if you've not subscribed already, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another video soon. Thanks for watching, guys.